Hey everyone, on today's show, we are doing an SEO and digital marketing masterclass. I am joined by Eric Su and Neil Patel from the Marketing School podcast, and they're breaking down for us how to think about search in the AI era, how to use AI to scale programmatic SEO. Is Google search dying? Is it dead? Is it doing great? We're going to get the pulse check on that and so much more. Let's get to today's show. Hey everyone, welcome to today's Marketing Against the Grain. I have two amazing guests with me. I'm joined by Eric Su and Neil Patel, who co-host the Marketing School podcast, and we're talking all things future of marketing and emerging marketing strategies today. Eric, Neil, thanks for joining us on Marketing Against the Grain today.
Thanks for having us.
Same.
Awesome, man. Thank you both for being here. Big fan of the Marketing School pod. I know you both have avid followings because you're deep practitioners of marketing and you're kind of deep at the intersection of both results and kind of emerging trends. And what I'm hoping to do today is take us through a tour of some of the most important aspects of marketing and talk about them and give people a new blueprint moving forward. And one of the places that I was hoping we could start was SEO. SEO, if you go read the SEO subreddit, it's a very depressing place. There's a lot of people talking about all the traffic they've lost, the websites they're shutting down. It's very, very doom and gloom. I think you all are probably more positive about the future of SEO and leveraging AI for SEO and those things than most people I talk to. And so I guess I'd love to kick it off and hear from both of you around what's happening with SEO? What's the state of the state? And what should people who are trying to get traffic from search do in this kind of post-AI era?
Yeah, I'll let Neil go first because he's been saying this quite a bit. He has a new definition of SEO that I think is catching on well. So Neil, why don't you kick it off first?
Yeah, so first off, we look at SEO as not search engine optimization. We look at it as search everywhere optimization. You know, as a Google VP said, I won't read the quote word for word, but he was talking about how when young people are doing a search, they're now turning to TikTok and Instagram before Google. People are now asking ChatGPT for questions and hiring companies based on the results that they're getting on ChatGPT. Like I was talking to this lady and I was like, how'd you find out about us? She's like, ChatGPT told me to hire your marketing firm NP Digital. I was like, all right, sounds great.
Sweet.
So you can optimize for so many channels, right? YouTube has search. It's the second most popular search engine outside of Google, which funny enough is owned by them. I don't have great stats on Baidu. It's a little bit tough to get stats on Baidu comparing the other channels because it's in China. But platforms are everywhere that have search now. The second thing to keep in mind is when you see the doom and gloom on the internet, like Twitter and Reddit, it's usually from people who are very technical. And that's one end of the market. Danny Sullivan, who's the search liaison of Google, has stated every single year, Google has driven more organic traffic to websites than the previous year. It doesn't matter that there's more zero clicks or any of that. Overall, net, they're driving more organic traffic to websites than the previous year. And even with the AI overviews release, we saw an increase in traffic to our client sites, assuming you're doing SEO well, because you got another place to get cited. Not by much, a little bit more than 1%, but that's better than a drop. And the real point that I'm getting at is when you think of SEO, when people talk about, oh my God, look how much traffic I lost, my rankings went down. Well, if you lost rankings, someone else climbed rankings. It just doesn't happen where everyone loses rankings, right? Google has roughly 10 results on the first page. And I say roughly because it really does vary. But if you've dropped, someone has taken those spots and is getting traffic. So the concept that organic traffic or SEO is dead, not really. It's changing though, and you got to adapt with it, not just focus on Google. But there's still a ton of traffic to be had.
Yeah, and just to add some context to that. So the sales intelligence tool we use is Gong. And so I was telling Neil and I were talking about this about a week ago, and I was just like, if I type in podcasts, okay, so 10% of the sales conversations involve podcasts in there. And then about 9 to 10% involve the keyword YouTube. The fact that we're here, Kip, we're on, this is a collaboration with the Marketing School podcast and the Marketing Against the Grain, right? We're both pushing this to YouTube. We're both going hard on podcasts. It's because the attention is being spread everywhere else. I think we tend to see the people that complain the most especially on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. It's what Neil mentioned. It's the SEOs that complain about it. And the SEOs that complain about it are typically, they put all their eggs in one basket. And once they start start to lose that traffic, they start to panic. And, Neil and I, we've gotten a couple of texts from friends this year talking about, oh my God, we've lost all our traffic, right? But some of these friends, they've bet most of their traffic into SEO, and it's no wonder why they're panicking, right? And so attention has changed up quite a bit. I mentioned that I would travel with friends this year, and I look at their behavior, and it's like they're not even using Google. They're just using TikTok to search for things, right? So we have to adapt with the changes and we have to roll with the punches. I think the people that complain the most are the ones that are unwilling to adapt.
Yeah, well, there's a few things I would bring up. The people who are losing the most search, to your point, are not they're not diversified. They're all in on search, which means they're deeply into informational search, like very how-to based search versus transactional search queries. And those how-to based search queries are getting more disrupted by AI overviews, by ChatGPT, by YouTube, by TikTok, all of those things. And I think that's what's challenging. I think the advice we're giving people is like, look, you have to be multimedia by default. Like people are using video and podcasts more than ever before, and you're going to have to be there as search kind of basically it unbundles and it comes across all the different platforms. The second thing I think we're talking about today is that AI is a new force in recommendations. And I call it like we're going from the word of mouth to word of machine era, which is like a hyperbole, but like it's, you will go and just get an answer from ChatGPT that is far more in depth and action oriented than previous search queries would be. And like I use the Replit agent to like build lightweight apps. And like that agent is telling me what APIs to use, what web infrastructure to use. It's making the buying choices for me. And so if we don't show up in those platforms, you're not going to be set up for success. I think my follow-up question to both of you is, what do you think are the advantages in SEO right now, or in terms of like, how can you use AI to actually get more traffic to your website versus worrying about the traffic disruption?
So what we do at my ad agency, Single Grain. So I'll use a case study here. So, some people poo-poo on programmatic SEO, and the way you want to think about that is you're just creating, location-based or templated content, right? So a TripAdvisor would be a good example. Fun things to do in Rome, fun things to do in Japan. And that's why they rank for millions and millions of keywords, right? Or like a Yelp, for example, or an Expedia. So you can generate these pages programmatically, but I think some people have taken that too aggressively. And so if you think about SEO 10, 15 years ago or so, there's a lot of these black hats that were just pushing out spam and they would rank for whatever. This programmatic content, to me, is still a way of spamming, but it's a way of spamming where you're adding value, I believe, to the web. And as long as you're doing it in a tasteful way and you're putting out quality content, Google has said themselves that they don't care about it, right? Like as long as it's helpful to the humans, that's great. And so we have one client, they were ranking for maybe like 500 bottom of the funnel keywords, transactional keywords. And then now they're ranking for about 7,000 or so. So it's not like we went hardcore for them. Like we produced some programmatic content for them, but not millions and millions of pages, right? And so I think some people tend to over index or just not do it at all. It's like, oh, I'm not going to do AI content, or they do too much of it and it's low quality. I think it's a happy medium that works. And the one final thing I'll add before I flip it over to Neil, actually two things, is if you're creating maybe hundreds or thousands of these pages, and again, you're QAing them, pretty closely and making sure the quality is good, that actually enables you to do programmatic conversion rate optimization, where you can change the call to actions on these pages. And we're seeing about a 50% lift on these pages. I'll give you an example. On our website for Single Grain, and I'll slow down a little bit. On our website, Single Grain, our typical call to action says work with us. Now, maybe we have a page that talks about conversion rate optimization services for e-commerce. Well, in that case, we'll change the call to action on that page to optimize your conversions, which seems trivial, but it actually increases the conversions on those pages by about 50% or so. And so what we do there is we leverage OpenAI's API, and then we just scan the context of that page, and we'll create a prompt for it, and we'll make it like we try to make it like less than 6 words, the call to action. And it's worked out really well for us. And then, I'm happy to talk about how we QA things, but that actually leads me into the third and final point before I flip it over to Neil, is where we're producing agentic workflows, right? And I know you and Kieran have talked about this, but for us, it's like, okay, SEO is a very thankless job. I don't want to spend time updating content. I don't want to spend time looking for internal links. I don't want to spend time doing a lot of this stuff at the end of the day. And so what we've created is, okay, we think about all the jobs to be done for SEO. You have to update your content. You have to index your content quickly. Okay, so we create all these agents that are able to do the work for us now. And I asked my developers, I was like, how much time are we saving from us? They're like 10x more time, and we're way more efficient, right? And so it's like, people talk about agents, but how do you actually implement it? You think about the jobs to be done first, then you map out the workflow for it, and then you can figure out how you want to daisy chain them together.
Can you give us like a specific example of an agent, what it does, like what it was built on? I just want everybody watching to understand like what is possible and what something that they could go and do.
Yeah, let me do a little screen share here. So, okay. So here's an AI consolidation agent. So in SEO, we know that if you update your content, you're going to gain more traffic. If you delete content, you help free up crawl budget. You might gain more content from it. But also you have to consolidate content that might be very similar, right? You guys do a very good job of this at HubSpot. And so, okay, what if we created an AI consolidation agent where what we do in the very beginning is we simply look at Google Search Console, and then we fetch Google Analytics metrics for URLs. And then as we continue down the workflow over here, we'll look for, the closest vector matches, right? What are the closest types of content that should probably be combined? And then we'll filter Google Search Console data, and then we'll fetch the URL. And then at the very end of it, we'll provide all the URLs that we think should be consolidated. And then my belief right now, at the very least for the next 2 to 3 years, is you probably need a human in the loop for this stuff. You can't just let it roll on its own. And then that's what we basically do. So this is one example.
So is that all a series of agentic prompts for like the OpenAI API, or like tell us about the technology behind it? Because everybody's going to drop comments in the YouTube and be like, all right, well, I like this. How do I go and like actually do that?
It's exactly that. So it's leveraging OpenAI's API. I believe we're using some newer products as well. I think we just started using something else. Our devs started using something else maybe like 2 weeks ago or so. I don't know what it is right now. So unfortunately, all I can say is OpenAI's API.
Yeah. But basically what you're saying is you can build basically a series of small web apps on the OpenAI API to basically automate different parts of SEO. In this example, it's like consolidating similar content to basically have fewer, more authoritative pages on your website instead of having 10 different pages that are kind of all saying the same thing and diluting your search power.
And Kip, imagine this, right? Like you guys are producing a lot of podcast content. So what we're doing for a lot of our pages to keep them updated is we're linking to the most recent podcast episode or the most recent YouTube video that's related to that. So it keeps refreshing the page. And then we also if we have an internal linking agent that's constantly working, then we're trying to put in the most relevant or the most recent internal links as well, just to help give love to those pages. So a lot of this stuff, I think humans we're very limited, but this stuff to me seems like it should be done programmatically.
Totally agree with that. There's a lot of marketers out there using AI. Most of them are just kind of copy and pasting ideas around. That's not the right way to do it. The smartest marketers are going to use AI to transform their marketing. At HubSpot, we've used AI to turn videos from one language to multilingual in minutes, not days. AI has completely changed the game for us, and it can change the game for you. In fact, we just dropped a 12-page guide of AI prompts that are going to turbocharge your marketing. And if you're somebody who's trying to get started with AI, wants the right prompts to kind of push you in the right direction and outline the best use cases, this is the guide for you. So click that link in the description and go check out our free prompt guide.
The way we use AI, you can end up using it in many different ways, but when we look at results for customers, we really see 2 avenues producing the most results. The first being research, because if you look at the content that Google tends to rank, it's a content that's the most thorough. So the more thorough you are, typically the better you're going to end up ranking, assuming you answer everyone's objections that they have around a specific topic. If not, they click the back button, sends a signal to Google. They keep searching, looking at the next web page and the next web page until they get their answer. So a great example of this is we work with a company called University of Technical Institute. We were able to grow their search traffic by more than 200% by using AI. So they have campuses all around the United States. We use AI to do research for all the locations and cities and all the information about those cities that we know interest students that go there around those campuses. So then when we sent that, and through AI, you can also have it organized in a specific format and a layout that you want. You then have your team, or we had our team, go and create content based on all the research that OpenAI or ChatGPT ended up providing. And then from there, we ended up going and modifying all the local pages, and that saw a massive boost in traffic. The second way is if you do a Google search for anything, you see Wikipedia. The reason you see Wikipedia ranking for most things is their content is fresh and up to date. Most people have this wrong that are SEOs though. They believe if you just quote unquote update a page and modify a line or two or add a video or add a link, it actually helps. We actually see if you update a page too frequently with very little value that you're adding, it does not help your rankings. We're actually seeing it hurt rankings. But if you go and you update a page and make it more thorough, answer objections, improve the user experience, right? All the things that are causing people issues, we're seeing rankings go up. But the key here is you can go into Search Console. You can use the agent for this. You can see what pages are decreasing in traffic year over year or quarter over quarter, however you want to end up basing it. From there, those are typically the pages that need updating. You can then end up running a search for all the keywords that have dropped in rankings, see who's ranking above you, what are they doing that your page is not doing, and then you'll have better ideas of what you need to do to update the content and make it better. You can have AI help you write some of that content, but you need a human in the loop. And the big thing that Eric and I believe in is you can't eliminate humans. Maybe in the future, and that's a real maybe. And the reason being is with AI, there's a lot of edge cases. For example, if you're HubSpot and your terms of service page gets little to no traffic, you can't have an AI just say, hey, this page is getting little to no traffic.
Exactly.
Where your SEO, you should only have pages that are getting traffic, so to eliminate it. You're going to be in legal trouble, right? And there's a lot of edge cases like that in all forms of marketing. For example, in paid marketing, let's say it's with Facebook or Google, as marketers, we know that you can't just say, hey, your campaigns are good or bad in the first day or week or month, because it takes time to scale up and it takes time to learn. Like Google's Performance Max isn't going to be optimized and ready to go with your campaigns from day one. But if you just rely on the AI, it may end up telling you, hey, you should shut this off and you should stop tomorrow and reallocate the budget. But as marketers, Eric and I know that we need to be patient and give it time. The big thing with AI is you really need a human in the loop. I was talking to a Google engineer, and this engineer works on Google's algorithms specifically with things like the AI overviews. And their biggest problem, and they've been fighting this problem since Google ended up coming out back in the day, is there's misinformation on the web. But with AI, it's pulling from everywhere on the web, and every day there's new misinformation. How do they know what to eliminate and what not to when it's giving you answers? These are reasons why they cite sources and why ChatGPT is doing this and other players are copying, because it's too hard for them to eliminate misinformation. If this was possible, Google would have done this years ago. And this is why AI is never going to be perfect.
I think maybe we can work towards talking about the old stuff that still works really well today, even though we're talking about the future of marketing, right? So what's old is kind of becomes new. And then I think we can end it with talking about the new stuff that we're excited about. So maybe I'll kick it off with some of the old stuff that Neil and I have been doing here. So what we really like. So we really like events. Neil and I are both going to Germany to speak at a conference called This is Marketing, leaving this Saturday or you're leaving Sunday, I guess. But within that event, what are we doing? So we're speaking at the event. The event organizers were gracious enough to host a private dinner for us as well with other entrepreneurs in the area. That's super high value as well. Neil and I will typically try to get meetings with other entrepreneurs in the area too. Neil's got employees over there.
If you're going to an event, there's usually a lot of people that are there from corporations of all sizes. So one thing that we tend to do is we tend to invite people for either private events, or we tend to invite people for our own quote unquote session that may be hosted in a room at the event or a separate place. And we'll give a talk and a speech. And we found that to generate a lot of revenue. And separately, we'll do our own events, excluding, events like HubSpot or whatever it may be where we're running our own thing. We're reaching out to our network, to people on LinkedIn, inviting them. And these are quote unquote ideal customers. And they're in roles where they would be decision makers. We found this to help us generate quite a bit of ROI over time because you're closing quite a few deals from it. We don't close deals right away. It takes us 1 year to 2 years to see a ROI from any events that we host on our own.
Cool. And I think the other stuff too that what's old is still new today is, Reddit has been around for a while. Quora has been around for a while, but communities have gotten a bump, and Google's kind of adjusted a little bit, but still, you cannot doubt that Reddit's added about 700 million in monthly organic visitors, and that's a lot, right? So in a world where we're going to see a lot more AI content production, this is why Quora and Reddit are taking off. But there's also other communities out there that you can make yourself. You can use apps out there called School, Skool, or Circle would be another one. And then for Circle, for example, I know you can put it on a subdomain so you can get some SEO benefit. And so I think communities to me are interesting because not only are you going to gain SEO traffic from it, but you're also going to build a retention mechanism in for your business, right? Because people ultimately, they might buy from you, but they stay for the community, right? And so community could be in person, like the events that we just talked about, or it could be online too. Or ideally, you're doing online first and then you're bringing them to in person, right? So Neil and I, we have this agency group called the Agency Owners Association, and there's an online component, but we're adding an in-person component because Neil and I basically live half a mile away, and there's like when we're both home, it makes sense to have a workshop that we can do in person, right? So Sam Altman himself has even said that he believes that in-person communities will be even more valuable in the next 5 to 10 years or so, because the fact of the matter is when you look at charts, humans are getting lonelier and lonelier. They're not getting out there, not talking to people. We're kind of not doing well with our social skills. And so I'm excited and I'm pretty bullish about that. Anything else missing there, Neil, before we talk about other stuff, future?
Yeah, when you look at community, I think the biggest issue that we're facing right now is with technology and AI, it's becoming less of a person-to-person world in which people are interacting online more with robots, technology, agents, whatever you want to calling them, versus other humans. And people are actually craving those in-person interactions. When Eric and I started in marketing, 10, 20 years ago, I don't know what time frame, it was more than 10 years ago, in-person events were really huge. People loved them. Social wasn't as big as it is today. And then over time, people started going to leveraging a lot of these social platforms. A lot of events started closing down and weren't doing well. New ones, of course, popped up. But now as Eric and I go to events, we go to a lot of the same ones because we live so close to each other. What we're finding is people are loving these in-person events. They're craving them. They're wanting more of them. And as technology keeps improving and evolving, it seems like people want even more and more of a localized community, but not just a community of just meeting up with other random people. It has to be like-minded people that are trying to solve similar problems or have similar goals and that can help each other.
All right. So this last part over here, we're actually going to talk about what we're excited about for the future of the marketing. So the future of marketing. So in the very beginning of this, we talked about what the future is for SEO, for CRO. And then we kind of went back in time, back to the future, talking about what's old is new again. And then now we're going to go back into the future. And I'm going to show you some things that I've been doing. And Neil can talk about some things that they've been doing as well. So I have the benefit of screen share here. Neil's too far away to screen share. So I will take the screen share here. I'm going to share a window. This is great. There's a YC backed company called Overlap. If you go to joinoverlap.com, and I know we like talking about tools on this podcast. So this is a recent episode I did with Seth Godin. So Seth Godin, the best-selling marketing author, and we did this in person. And the cool thing is I just put in my YouTube URL and it found the right moments and it came up with a good headline, right, for each one. So you can see here's like a 3 to 5 minute clip or so that now can be repurposed for LinkedIn, for X, for Threads, or maybe even like a shorter form clip channel for YouTube. So we're getting a lot more mileage out of our long form content now, right? So we're doing the same thing with our marketing school content because Neil and I, like we're recording tomorrow in person, it might be 75 minutes or so, and then we want to find the right moments there that we can go out there and post. But we're just looking for more at bats with our content, right? Because for example, this piece over here, it's a collaboration with HubSpot and the Marketing School podcast, and what we want to do is we want to get the most mileage from this as well. And so this has been great. And I don't think it costs a lot of money. There's like a free version, and it'll also chop up, 16:9 versions and 9:16 versions that you can put for social or short form. That's great. The other thing I'll call out here is last weekend I was playing around with a tool called napkin.ai. And what it does is it'll take your written content. You can see where my cursor is right now. And I just put in my written content, and then it will come up with illustration concepts, right? So achieving personal excellence, right? It goes like, I talked about like waking up early, learning all day, right? Working on hard things, right? It's like a more, inspirational written piece of content. And so I can scroll through these. There's like a ladder over here. There's a plant over here. So I'm not saying this is necessarily the best illustration here, but at least it gives me an outline. At least it gives me a concept to work with, or at least it gives designers something to work with, right? So this just came out recently and it's free right now, I believe. So again, it's napkin.ai, and I have no stake in any of these companies. So joinoverlap.com, napkin.ai. And the last thing I'll show you over here is bolt.news. So I've talked about Replit, I've talked about Cursor, you've probably heard about it on this podcast already, but bolt.news is even easier for me as a marketer to create front ends for my developers. And it basically will get me 50, 60, 70% there. And I can hand off a concept here. So I kind of showed this to Neil, but I never really showed him like a illustration of it, right? I just say, hey, look, why don't you help me bolt.new? It's going to help me code up a front end. I said, how about you help create a YouTube content idea generator for me? So I want you to come up with the best packaging for the headlines, the thumbnails, right? Give me 5 for each video and allow me to either upload a audio file or a video file, or allow me to insert a YouTube link. And basically this is the front end that it gave me, right? And actually this can be fully functional if I just mess around with this more. And so I think it's helped someone like me save a lot of time. It helps someone like Neil save a lot of time. I think it's going to help marketers save a lot of time. So this is just a tip of the iceberg. I just wanted to share with you some things that I'm excited about for the future. But go ahead, Neil.
Yeah, so I posted something on Twitter today and we found some interesting stats. We analyzed a little bit more than 70,000 keywords and we saw an interesting trend in which over time when you're looking at Google's index, they're ranking more short and short form videos. So in 2020, 96.4% of the videos we found on page 1 of Google were long form. Fast forward to today, 69.8% are long form and 30.2% are short form videos. Short form videos being a minute or under, long form being over a minute. But here's what's interesting. When we look at long form videos and short form videos, short form, when we did a analysis of a group and we actually had them watch both short form and long form videos, they were able to skip the ones that weren't interesting to them. The next day, when we actually asked them questions related to the short form videos and the long form videos, people weren't really retaining anything related to the short form videos. They were retaining information from the long form videos. What we found is people are consuming short form content and it's a great way to get views and traffic and followers, but it's a terrible way to drive conversions. You're going to start seeing in the future, everyone's been consuming short form videos, but more people, including people like Mr. Beast, are focusing on more long form videos because it's actually what's driving conversions. Getting all these eyeballs with no conversions doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's like companies saying, hey, my SEO traffic has boomed. Well, if your SEO traffic has boomed, but you didn't see $1 more in sales, who really cares at the end of the day? All that matters is, are you driving more revenue or are you not? Because if you're not, you're just wasting time and resources and you can reallocate. The other thing, and Eric and I have talked about this, is you have no choice but to be omni-channel today. See, back in the day, Facebook grew through the email invite flow. Hey, your friend is inviting you to join Facebook. Dropbox grew through, hey, share on the social web and you'll get more free storage space on Dropbox. That doesn't work today. Any of those channels, yes, can have some impact to your marketing, but they're all competitive. Now, most companies today use multi-channel marketing. That means they're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Google, email. But the difference between omni-channel and multi-channel is an important nuance. In omni-channel, you're actually leveraging the learnings from each of the channels and having the channels work together to accomplish your goals or your KPIs versus each of the channels being independent. And when you leverage omni-channel marketing, we're typically seeing the ROI per channel go up by at least 10%. And a great example of this is we were at Expedia, and when I was there in Expedia Canada, they ran an interesting study because Expedia has a lot of properties like hotels.com. They used to own TripAdvisor before they spun it out. Same with Trivago, Travelocity, the list goes on and on. And what Expedia found is when they took an omni-channel approach, leveraged multiple channels, working towards the same goals, they saw a lift of a little bit more than 10% for all the channels, right? And that's the channels working well together. More businesses are not going to have a choice but to do that. The other big trend that you're seeing is there's more and more data privacy issues, and everyone in an organization will raise their hand saying, yeah, we use analytics. But when you actually look at how many people are logging into the analytics solutions each day, and then if you dive a bit deeper, how many people are actually making changes based on what they're seeing that's actionable to help improve the bottom line of a business, very few people are really using analytics in the correct way. Not always important to set up a data and analytics team, but with AI, if you don't have the budgets, it can not only help you analyze your data in real time, it can give you actionable insights, and a human can choose either to take action on it or not. But it can then make your data more actionable. So then that way people are using AI to improve their bottom line versus a lot of people in an organization, especially in marketing, be like, yeah, we use AI. Look at all these cool things we've done. Fast forward a quarter, even a year. All right, you've used all this stuff. What's an increase in revenue? What's an increase in profit? Very few people have great responses based on the tools that they're using when it comes to AI. And not enough people are actually focusing on improving the bottom line with these tools. And I think that's very important. Doing all this great work, but not seeing any improvements on the real numbers that impact a business is useless at the end of the day.
I think the best way to close this off is if you look at Accenture is the best example here, right? Like how much did they drive 900 million in revenue over a quarter? Did they invest 900 million and they got like 1.3 billion or something over a quarter? It's some big number, but they're reaping the rewards of generative AI. So they're actually tying their work in with business results at the end of the day. I think that's a good point, right? You can use all the stuff in the world, but how is it impacting your business? Otherwise, because I'll see people at my company that will just, I'm doing, it's a lot of activity, right? But you can't mistake activity for progress at the end of the day. And I think a lot, I made this report, I adjusted this process over here. Okay, but how did that actually impact my bottom line? That's what matters.
And it must have been they invested 900 million because they do around 16-ish billion. I just looked it up per quarter in revenue.
Revenue for the fiscal year 2024 was 900 million, which is triple the amount recorded in 2023. The company's AI bookings for the year were 3 billion. There you go, 3 billion.
No, yeah. Accenture globally does around $64 billion a year in revenue.
Yep. So Gen AI bookings for the year, 3 billion. That's and if it's growing quickly, then it's going to be big. It's already big.
Yeah. And same with McKinsey and Accenture and Deloitte and all these guys. A lot of their growth is coming from investing in AI, but in the right places, because a lot of these guys are business consultants that are helping organizations and C-levels see a ROI on their dollars.
Yep. All right. So I think that's a great place to close off. We appreciate his collaboration with the Marketing Against the Grain podcast. And appreciate getting to hang out with Kip for a little bit. And I think that's a great way to close off. So if you want to find Neil online, just find him. It's Neil Patel on everything. If you want to find me, it's at EricOSIU on the Twitters or the Instagrams. But that being said, great seeing you all. And hopefully we'll come hang out again soon.
This data is wrong every freaking time.
Have you heard of HubSpot? HubSpot is a CRM platform where everything is fully integrated.
Whoa, I can see the client's whole history, calls, support tickets, emails, and here's a task from 3 days ago I totally missed.
HubSpot. Grow better.